sit back, reflect, try to rise above the stress. Life's a test, sometimes you cut throats just to cash your check. If greed's the devil's seed, guess I'm living possessed. Ain't perfect, nah, but Lord knows I gave it my best. Mama pushed me to fly, told me flaw and progress. I hope heaven knows. Now I'm soaring through the night, battle scarred on my chest. Lit like a street light, guiding others through the fight. I hope you follow my steps, get the struggle right. All my people eat, break bread, let's divide the plate. The rod stays ready, just waiting for the hook to take. If you feel brave, then leap. Test my fight, test my peace. Keep 2 heaters with me, Jordan style, 23s. All's well that ends well, Lord, I pray you see my pain. I hope heaven knows my struggle. Hope my losses weren't in vain. I hope heaven knows. 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 I hold grudges like scars. They fade but never leave. Same man, same code. Live my truth, wear it on my sleeve. I break rules, yeah, but the streets taught me respect the creed. Cold-hearted, raised by winter, where the souls bleed. You either ride or you fold, stand tall or let go. Like soldiers in my lane, just stones for me to overthrow.
Good morning, 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 good morning. This morning I'm talking about murder, mass deportations, and Derek Chauvin, the raw truth. But before we get into any of that, I got something special for you. You know, we always start with music. We're going to start with Crowded Room, Don Trip, and we'll be right back right after this.
Alone in a crowded room, at times I feel out of place. And then I just run away, back to my hideaway. I never did fit in, I never tried to. No, I don't aspire to be anything like you. We ain't cut the same and we don't move the same. I've been who I am since before niggas knew my name. Still getting used to fame, still don't enjoy it though. Still not accepting no invite to no award show. Cause I can't fake it for y'all, I can't fake it at all. I'm this close to dropping one more tape and then taking off. Superman gotta be stretched as fuck when that cape come off. Say today every day and still don't get to take a day off. Alone in a crowded room, invasion of private space. I'm giving this all I have, I need some time away. I need some time to think, shit, I wouldn't mind a break. I live in a stopwatch, so I got no time to waste. I can't please you motherfuckers, be foolish of me to try. I give what's on my mind, if you don't like it, that's fine. No really, I don't mind if I ain't your cup of tea. The truth is mighty bitter, I get it, you like it sweet. And I ain't sugarcoating shit, it just doesn't sit right with me. I feel like a referee, I call it just how I see. Even if you see it different, the way I see it's official. And ain't no do-overs after the whistle, you get it, I hope you do, I hope you put it to use. I broke the golden rule in this business, I spoke the truth and I never regretted it or spent a second guessing it. You can't be hesitant, cause chasing presidents is precedent. Niggas say it ain't he lying, cause I swear to death it is. In this life ain't nothing coming back around except your bills. And you probably wanna submit to all your problems. You got one day to feel sorry, after that let's get it poppin'. No excuses. My mind is a crowded room. I always feel out of place. I always feel out of touch. I always feel locked away. That's why I'm out the way, cause home is my hideaway. I let them peek inside and they invaded my private space. By giving you all I had, I need some time away. I need some time to breathe, shit, I wouldn't mind a break. Giving them all I have, I need some time away. I need some time to breathe. I need long live pill. DT the kid.
Beat those drums.
Crowded room, Don Tripp. Man, I got something special for y'all today. You know, we always do a video about educating ourselves, right? So this morning, I want to show you the public safety committee that they had yesterday, because I do believe that there was a conversation that came up between, you know, it was Walter Hudson's bill, House File 765. But I want to welcome y'all back to the Urban Conservative, where we keep it all the way real. No sugarcoating, no spin, just raw truth straight down the streets to your ears. I'm your host, Chaz Neal, and we got a heavy lineup of topics that hit deep, from the brutal murder of a transgender man to the political war over immigration and even Elon Musk stirring up controversy. We're going to get into it today, but I want to take it back because this affects, I believe, this more than Minneapolis. It affects areas that actually don't know any better, so they don't do any better. And then they make it harder. So if you're trying to you change your life and you try to do better, you can't, because there's roadblocks in the way, right? And that's what I really want to talk about. So here is H file 765. I'm only going to play about 17 minutes of it. But this is, I feel like, the most important parts of it that they talked about yesterday. And here is Sandra Feist. She is a DFL legislator, state representative. And I want to get in, that's who's going to be leading off here.
A lot of considerations that we need to have when we're looking at increasing penalties, increasing incarceration. And, you know, this bill is really focused on punishment, and I just want to look at these types of considerations with a bigger lens.
Representative Hudson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Representative Feist. The old quote, and I don't know who said it originally, but, you know, lies, damn lies, and statistics, right? And that game is played on all sides of sorting through data in order to, with the preconceived intention of presenting a narrative. And I'm not accusing any of the folks who we've cited here today as being guilty of that, but it is something that's taken into consideration. I think at the heart of it, though, when we're talking about criminal justice, statistics can be important if they reflect accurate data, but it gets too impersonal. We're talking about people. We're talking about victims. We're talking about perpetrators. We're talking about human beings doing things to other human beings that should not be done. And what are we going to do about that? And again, what this bill says is that when you get your third violent felony conviction, we're done. Like, we're not playing anymore. Like, I past that point, I don't know if I care if you ever become a productive citizen, because you have opted out of productive society. Your third violent felony conviction? I don't know how interested I am in making sure you get educated and you get at that point, you're talking about a chronic dysfunction in a person's ability to be a member of society. And past that point, it is the responsibility of those of us who govern society to protect everyone else, to protect everyone who is functional, who isn't harming their neighbor, who isn't violating the rights of others. I'll give you some stats that I know are solid, and that from a source that I know you trust. And I won't disclose the particulars of where I got this from, but I think you'll know when I tell you. I had a meeting this week with somebody who works with juveniles. And he presented me a folder that was about as thick as one of our statute books. The documents inside covered the crimes committed by only 6 juveniles. Those 6 juveniles, over the course of the last 18 months, are personally responsible for 174 separate victims.
Damn.
174 separate human beings, real human beings, whose lives were touched in an inappropriate way by the actions of these kids. That's an average of 29 victims per kid. Now, at some point, our consideration properly should be the 174 as opposed to the 6, right? Like, all the concern of the current trajectory and momentum of our public safety conversation in the state seems to be upon the 6. What do we do about the perpetrators? What do we do to make their lives better? What do we do to put them on the right track? What about the 174 victims who somehow figured it out? They somehow have managed to go through their lives without hurting other people and stealing from other people and harming other people. We're just going to let their rights be violated because we're so deeply concerned about the folks who are perpetrating against them. And look, there is a middle ground. I know I'm getting a little heated because I care about it. There is a bullseye somewhere between the restorative practices and trying to get people back to where they need to be in order to be productive members of society and actually protecting the public from the terrible things that these people are doing. And I would like to think that providing an enhanced penalty for somebody who has 3 violent felony convictions hits right in that bullseye.
Representative Feist. Keep in
Thank you,
mind
Mr.
We have
Chair.
2 more bills to go.
Sorry, we're getting a little bit far afield, but I can't not respond. I'm not necessarily even saying that this bill isn't, hitting that bullseye. I was more responding to the statistics which I thought were misleading. But I do think that now, having had that conversation, that those 6 kids were victims before they were offenders. And so I just need to point that out, that I think that we often approach our public safety in a really black and white way that isn't always the most effective in protecting public safety. So I'll just leave it at that. Thanks.
Representative Hudson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Representative Feist. And sincerely, that is a valuable point and something we do need to continue to work on. There's a balance somewhere in there of, like, the 174 victims. Like, is it their responsibility to endure being victimized because somebody else was a victim? Is being a victim a justification or a rationale for victimizing someone else? I think we all agree it's not. Where compassion meets justice is an ongoing conversation, but I think this bill is a solid step when we say, once you've proven you're not interested in compassion, you get less of ours.
Representative Bremen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I guess I'm just compelled as the only member who serves and lives in Minneapolis. And it's been a while since there's been a Minneapolis member on public safety in the House to just say we're oftentimes the flogging horse of in most committees, and we're the biggest city, and we get it, but we should all be invested in the success. I'll say yesterday there was a good news out of Minneapolis, and when we talk about the statistics, it's helpful to also talk about the good news. Tuesday, the city reported significant decreases in violent crime this year. 47% drops in robberies, 40% decreases in carjackings, 32% fewer shooting victims. Now, like zero. Everywhere in the state, any shooting victim is too many. And that's also why we have to talk about gun violence and the flood of guns on our streets in Minneapolis. We talk about it, I hear about it all the time from constituents. And so I just will say, it is very important that we are talking about, because if we're policymakers and we're talking about how our policies are everything, we are looking at both good news and bad news. But let's be clear, guns and shooting and violent crime, guns are as much a part of that as anything. And so having that conversation without talking about guns, to me, sort of doesn't address the problem. But as a Minneapolis member, now I am here to stand up for my city a little bit and say, I hope we can all be invested in improvements in making sure all of those 500,000 people are safe from all of these things.
I didn't hear a question. Representative Hollins?
It's okay.
Okay. Lead Moeller.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I will be brief. I do have one question for Representative Hudson, and I'm curious if any victim advocacy groups have expressed support for this bill.
Representative Hudson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Representative Moeller. I have not engaged with victim advocacy groups. Didn't feel as though it was necessary. This should be relatively non-controversial once you, again, have committed 3 violent felony. You've got convictions on 3 violent felonies. I don't know how much discussion is necessary to determine that that's somebody who should not be on our streets and able to victimize somebody else.
Lead Moeller.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, I just heard victims come up a number of times, and I would be curious to know how they feel, because I know in past years they have said increased penalties is not what they believe. This is the advocacy groups is the answer to solving crime. Victims aren't a monolith, so I'm sure you could find some victims who would be like, absolutely do this. But I do think it's still important, if you're going to say that victims want this, to at least talk to those advocacy groups and hear what their thoughts are around this and other possible solutions. I did just want to reference the sentencing guidelines, because those were referenced earlier as well. Since 1981, the number of felony cases sentenced annually has generally grown from 5,500 cases in 1981 to over 16,000 cases in 2023. And then I'm cutting down what I was going to say. In 2023, the total incarceration rate, the percentage of felony cases in which the sentence included prison or confinement in a local correctional facility, was 86% compared to 63% in 1982. And I think we could all agree on both sides of the aisle that what we have been doing isn't working, and I think we need other solutions. I think we need prevention, we need rehabilitation, we definitely need people to be held accountable too, and I'd love to continue working on solutions for all of those things. I just don't think this bill hits the mark.
You want to respond to that before I ask the last question and you close, or?
I think I can respond to it in my close. Go ahead and ask your question.
All right. Representative Hudson, I agree. What we've been doing isn't working, and that's why we work together on this bill. Maybe you haven't had a chance to talk to victims directly, but I've been with you on the corner 36th and Penn when you did talk to victims and you did have this conversation. If I could remind you about that conversation that we had. And I'll remind you, and we've been not to assault or kick a city that it's down, but one day we picked and we went to 36th and Penn and met with people. And when we got there, they were just taking down the crime scene, the crime tape from one end of the next block over. They were taking down the crime scene tape from a murder that happened there. And we met with some people in the corner. And before I got home, or to my next event, which was actually a fundraiser for Jamal Mitchell in St. Paul, in the time it took me to drive from there to St. Paul, there had been another murder, not 50, maybe 75 feet away from where we had been standing. So we're not trying to pick on any particular place, but
Yeah, you
in
are.
my career in
Because you lied about 36 and
30
Penn,
years in
first of all,
Sherman
sir.
County, had there been 2 murders within a block in the course of about 4 hours, we would take that very seriously, and there would be changes if it was in Sherman County or North Oaks or Maplewood.
See, I want to stop it there for a second, right? Because I want to show you something that he just talked about 36th and Penn and Jamal Mitchell. So they came out there, and there was me, Marcus, Jamal Johnson, Operation Hug the Block. It was a crazy day that day. I will say that. It was crazy as hell. Yep, they talking about me. Yep. And this is the whole crazy thing, right? Because I wish this is the thing, they will talk about us, but they won't bring us up there, right? And this is the whole crazy part. And I wonder why. I really, really wonder why. Because you talk about situations and you don't tell the truth and nothing but the truth. This is what pisses me off, because they talk about Minneapolis, they talk about 36th and Penn. I'm gonna tell you right now, that man in the red who got the red sweater on, everybody knows who Dr. Umar is. That's his dad. That Walter Hudson didn't even know who he was. Didn't know who Jamal Johnson was. Operation Hug the Block. Didn't even know who he was. So I brought this photo up because Walter likes to throw it out there that he's come over, to North Minneapolis and he's done. I will give it up. Yes, he has when he's asked. But when we really need them, where are they at? Because this is the whole thing about the GOP in Minnesota. They like talking about Minneapolis because it brings money. They want to talk about all this fraud and waste. Then let's really have discussions about it. Let's not make it a political, you like to bring up shit. That's the whole crazy part for me, is because I looked over this whole bill, right? And I'm not disagreeing with it. But here's my thing. You have to give people resources to change their lives. You can't just, you know what I'm saying? And I will say this. He brought up juveniles. He didn't bring up adults. These were all juveniles there were 6 juveniles and 174 victims. Now, he didn't tell you that they were over north. Those kids probably lived in North Minneapolis, but their crimes were Twin Cities wide. And there's a reason for that. It's because they know in their areas where they live and they lay their heads, they don't have BMWs. They don't have Benzes, right? And then when they figured out that kids could be stolen so easily, why not go out to the suburbs, take a couple kids, bring them to North Minneapolis, bring them in? They're not going to chase you. How many times have we seen that? They're not going to chase these kids. They're not. Doesn't matter what they do, because I will tell you like this. They did all this bullshit in the 80s, the 90s, and in the early 2000s that our kids are now paying the consequences for all the wrongs that they've done. They're paying the repercussions. Not the politicians, because they've made it seem like, okay, we fucked these people over. So now here's the thing of it is, we're going to make these laws easier and more lenient. And then when they get them in, we'll call them career criminals before they're even 18. We'll call them career criminals, but we won't make sure that they know how to read. We won't make sure that they know how to write. We won't make sure that they have opportunities to go to college, to make something better of themselves. We're just going to keep on gentrifying their areas. We're going to keep on making it harder where they don't have that opportunity for food deserts, where the mayor of Minneapolis comes out and says that it's easier to get a gun over in North Minneapolis than it is to get a fresh apple. Who wants a mayor that says that? You should want to change that. You should want to be a part of changing that, not highlighting that, because that's the one crazy part I will never understand it, right? Is I was talking to Marcus yesterday about this, and I said, what's crazy is they like to bring up North Minneapolis, but they're never over there in the trenches. This is the one thing, because I know Reverend Tim Christopher has brought up Paul Novotny before. And yes, Novotny has came over there when he's been asked. But when we really need these people, they're not there. That's the one part that I will say, because I'm tired of this. I'm tired of this. It's because when we really need them, they're not there. But when they want to use us to benefit their political careers, we're the butt of all their fucking jokes. We're a butt of all their problems, because let's not fix Minneapolis. Let's not make it better, because you allow it to be the way that it is. You allow these progressive and liberal lawmakers, because you can do something on the state level, but you can't do nothing inside of Minneapolis. And that bothers you. That bothers Walter Hudson. That bothers Paul Novotny. Because that policing that you want, That old that southern old good old white boy policing, those motherfuckers can't do in Minneapolis. You can try to get away with it, but you understand as well as that niggas are gonna protest. You understand that motherfuckers are gonna get out and do something. And that's what y'all worried about. Because I will tell you like this, Walter came out the other day talking about he was doxxed. Nigga, I get doxxed by your motherfucking people that we pay every day that are supposed to serve and protect. But they duck and swerve. It's not about preventing motherfucking anything out here. Because you have made it. This is the one crazy thing. I don't care what people say. If you don't vote or if you voted no for it and don't stand up, you're just like, okay, we did what we could. We're just going to move on. No, there is no fucking moving on. We still have a problem, Mary. We still have a problem. It doesn't matter what these motherfuckers do. We still have a problem. Because one person, and then y'all go ask for more money. That's all we hear about. That's what I'm so tired of. I am so tired that, oh, we need money to fix this and we need money to fix that. I'm going to tell you right now, that area at Quick Stop don't even look like that no more. All that is gone. The banner, the bears, that's for Anaya. Even the trees have been fucked up. I think Marcus still has the Trinity plaque, or maybe he did get that back to Ray Sean and Karina. Yeah, because it was crazy as hell. Just one day we went over there and it was just laying on the ground. And I was like, wait, what the fuck? And then you notice tire tracks through there from a car. And you're like, wow, these some old disrespectful ass motherfuckers over here, man. I don't get it. And then we vote for this shit. We vote for this to be abused and traumatized by the same people we vote for. The people that are supposed to protect us. And what do? They forget about us because it doesn't affect them. It doesn't affect them. And I'll be honest, that's crazy. You know, that's the one thing I will say, right, is there's a lawsuit going on right now in Minneapolis that was just filed. I think it was this week. They're suing the Kaplans. They're big donors in Minneapolis. A lot of people don't know about them. And then there's another city council person, Pausano, is suing Koski. And basically, they're suing for the same thing that Mayor Frey did in 2017. He changed the language for him. And now that a person is doing the same thing that motherfucker was doing, y'all want to look at it like it's wrong. No, we allow this. That's the one thing that pisses me off, right? Is you see all these people getting mad about, oh, he's cutting USAID and he's getting rid of Head Start and Department of Education. Y'all could have did something. You could still do something, but instead you only want to complain now because your job could potentially be gone. You want people to care because it affects you, but when it didn't affect you, you didn't care. So why should we? That's why, honestly, I sit back and laugh at motherfuckers. Even when it came to Trump and his little Congress speech. When I listened to that, and then I seen the little boy DJ. Man, there's a whole motherfucking story to that DJ shit. Y'all ain't even ready for that. Y'all not even ready for it. The whole story behind that. Y'all just like, oh, look at Trump ain't racist. He put a little black boy up here. Man, stop it. That's another Kamala. Because you call him black, we supposed to call him black? Nah, man, stop it. The same thing with El Green. Y'all want us to be satisfied with tokens, not tangibles, tokens, situations that we can be proud of. For what? For what? These people have been, this is one thing that I will never understand, right? While they out here making TikToks and, you know, all these things talking about pick the fighter and, man, come on. Let's be serious. Let's be serious. Come on, like, I don't even get that. Because I will tell you right now, there ain't nobody that's in Washington, D.C. There ain't nobody that goes to St. Paul, to the state capitol, that's going to change the world. That's going to change the community. Because all you're trying to do is not eradicate and abolish the issues, but you're trying to make them worse. Because all you're doing is, and this is the one crazy thing, you can't fix a solution or an issue. I will say this, you can't fix an issue unless you go at the core. If you add an amendment, if you, just like with this wordage that they want to use in Minnesota, there's a lot of crazy ass shit. They want to get rid of, and this is fucking wild too. It probably won't pass, but and maybe it will, but you have to retreat. You can't stand your ground. You can't, there's no self-defense. They're trying to make that illegal. So where do we come in? Where it's, you can't protect yourself from others. That you always have to be a track star. No, fuck that. We got to hold our own at some point. So doesn't that feel like they're trying to take the rights for us to fight? I don't understand that. You would think it would be that way, wouldn't you? Be like, wait, isn't that sound like what Reagan did to the Black Panthers when they went up to the state capitol in California and they were all strapped? So then they wrote legislation that made it possible where black men couldn't do that. You could, that's where we see all this 2A now shit. Oh, we need to fight. We need to fight. What you need to fight for? You didn't want to fight when we needed you. You didn't want to fight when we needed you, so why you fight now? You know, that's the one thing I will never understand is like, why are you fighting now? Because when we needed y'all, y'all weren't nowhere near us. Nowhere near us. So I want to talk about Sam Nordquist. We all know that, maybe we all don't know. 7 people have been charged. But some more news came out about this case, and it saddens me. You know, it's like, when are we going to do better instead of just ignoring, people until it's too late, and then we just feel bad, and then we want to try to change something, but yet we don't really change it. We just feel, we get emotional, we want to cry, we get money, but do we ever really change what's happening in America? Because even though a lot of people learned Emmett Till's story, the same thing that happened to Emmett happens today to other black men, to other black youth. And maybe some are killed, but they are put in jails. They are put in prisons. The same thing with Mayan Burrell or Marvin Haynes. How many in the world, I won't even say the world, in America are like Marvin Haynes, that are sitting behind bars and have no evidence that they're innocent, and yet they're still sitting behind bars because we won't do the right thing. We get caught up in doing we'll talk about it, but yet we won't sit here and we won't do all that. But I'll be right back right after this. And here you go with investigators say 2 children were forced to torture transgender man Sam Nordquist.
Disturbing new allegations about the torture and murder of a transgender man from Minnesota. Those details coming to light as officials in New York charge 7 more people in Sam Nordquist's death. Joe McCoy is here to explain how young children were forced into that situation. Joe?
Well, Julie, we learned today that investigators are now saying 2 children were compelled to assist in the torture of Sam Nordquist. All 7 suspects are also now charged with first-degree murder, a rare charge in New York that requires a grand jury.
What human being could do what happened to Sam? We'll never make sense of this case.
Less than a month after Sam Nordquist from Oakdale, Minnesota, was found dead in a field in New York, the Ontario County District Attorney's Office charged 7 people with first-degree murder for his death.
It specifically requires that we prove that all 7 defendants tortured Sam Nordquist and that they did so because they enjoyed it. That's what murder in the first degree is.
According to the indictment, between January 1st and February 2nd at Patty's Lodge Motel in Hopewell, New York, Sam was physically and sexually assaulted. He was also forced to eat feces and drink urine, prevented from using his phone, denied proper nutrition and hydration, and had bleach poured on him.
They physically restrained him. They forced him to obey their commands, treating him like a dog.
In addition to second-degree murder and first-degree kidnapping charges against all 7 suspects, Precious Arzuaga, Sam's online girlfriend that he traveled to New York to see, is charged with first-degree coercion for compelling 2 children to assist in the torture.
We have a 7-year-old and a 12-year-old who are also victims. They may have been forced to participate, but their lives are forever changed by what they saw and endured in there.
Prosecutors say there is no indication of any prior victims to Sam. If convicted, the defendants face a sentence of life without parole.
Prosecutors expect the suspects to be arraigned in the next week and a half. Sam's funeral took place yesterday. His family did not comment today on these updated charges.
Man. That's crazy that it doesn't even make it more heartbreaking, because there were kids that were 7 and 12 that had to witness this, and not only but witness it, but they were forced to be involved. These are kids, and we're supposed to. I don't get that, man. That was kids. I know a lot of individuals be out here be, fucked up and be in their ways, but come on, you can't tell me that everything that you do isn't to better the next generation or to make it where individuals can feel better and be better, because that's wild to me. I will say that's wild that we sit here and we look at situations like this and we'll be like, well, that's just kids being kids. No, it's because a lot of adults are in the deranged mind that it's okay it was okay for me to do it, so they can do it too. No, it wasn't right. You might have lived, but that doesn't make that it was okay. And I don't understand that. Like, we look at so many situations, and I thought it was, in this, when we know better, we do better. Once we become better educated. But I see that, that's the, one thing that I keep bringing up through, like, the Rockefellers, the Rothschilds, and how public education was even built, is that they wanted a nation of workers, not thinkers. Because in my mind, if you have a nation of workers, a nation of thinkers, you're going to outthink. You're going to think of solutions. You're going to think of how to make situations better. You know what I'm saying? And that's, I bookmarked something. I wanted to show, right? I listen to Charleston White every, once in a while. And he did a video a while ago. And I thought it was very interesting. And I want people to listen. And we're going to continue on with the show today, but I want people to listen to why he feels like we have issues in the Black community.
I play sports. I ask Black people all the time, you tell me something good about us in the last 40, 50 years that we can be proud of and take to the ancestors. We've gone backwards compared to where they moved forward to get us here. What have Black people done in the last 50 years that they can stand up in the world and say, yeah, we proud, black and proud. We ain't got nothing we can be proud of, homie. I can't think of nothing good Black people do today besides play sports. And they play that for white folks good. We ain't good no more. It's some individual good people, but collectively we f***ed up, tainted, poisoned, and we cannot keep continuing making babies. This group have to be destroyed. We have to be wiped out, homie, because of the hearts of this group of Black people, homie. We too hateful. We don't even love each other. Right. We don't like white people. We don't like nobody. We have become the new slave master. The white boy used to be mean to everybody. Our ancestors used to didn't talk in public. They didn't want to be noticed by white people. We want to be noticed by white people.
Right. Damn. That there was so much. Damn, that was deep. There was a lot of truth there. What have, besides regressing and not progressing, where has the black community? Where has the, because we are divided. I will say that we are divided as hell on a very, no matter if it comes down to, trans, no matter if it comes down to gay marriage, black people can't agree on shit. We don't agree on public education. We don't believe that, some people believe that we should have a voucher system, that our kids should be able to choose where they want to go to school, and some we don't. Some get to choose because they're gifted in sports. Some go to a different school because they're gifted in, education. We should make that all the way around. We should make that all the way around. All the way around. All the way around is because I think about, Sam Nordquist, and we could have corrected that. We could have made it where it's not, because I will tell you like this. You've seen, and maybe you haven't, but seven people charged. And then they were allowing kids. When are we going to stand up and say this is wrong? There's wrong being done in America, and we got to stand up. Because when kids see this, they see that it's okay. And then we get idiots like Paul Novotny and Walter Hudson. I'm going to say that, idiots. I'm going to say idiots, because I will tell you like this. There was no murder scene. There was no crime scene being cleaned up when they went out there on 36th and Penn. There wasn't. And you show me any kind of paperwork before the murder happened at the apartments right down the street, right after you left, before you went to the Jamal Mitchell event. You showed me where somebody was killed. And it was a couple days before that. Because we hang out at that area. We hang out at that spot. But at least we used to, I will say that. And we are starting getting back to it. We're getting back into this political realm. We're starting to, wanting to not just be a part of issues, but be a part of the solution. We don't want to just be talkers. We want to be actionable too. We have to take actionable steps, just like, you're seeing they had all that. I won't even get into that. It don't even make no sense. The whole Target blackout shit, it don't make no sense to me. But what I want to talk about is the mass deportations. So there's a group like COPEL, or like the Hispanic Outreach Centers, and we have different immigration services that are helping individuals on taxpayer. I'm not saying they're not taxpayers, but we're forgetting about Americans. We're forgetting about individuals that were born here, that were raised, for people that are looking for that American dream. Right? We're sitting here watching while y'all use us and say that, hey, there's the 14th Amendment, there's, the DEI. Listen, if you read that shit, it's not for us. You look at the data and the stats. It wasn't for us. America has been so fucked up for so long. Like, I honestly believe the founding fathers never dreamed that we would have this many issues. So why don't we start over? I don't know how we would do that. I don't know how it would look like. But honestly, we need to start over. Bless up, bless up. We need to be in a situation where we can learn from one another. Because I will tell you like this. We live in a society where it's not just women-based. It's not just man-based. It's not white-based anymore. It's everybody-based. So we have to write legislation that includes everybody and not make amendments where we have to repel or eradicate something and just start all over with. You know what I'm saying? Because I will tell you like this, when the Constitution was written, it wasn't written with everybody being seen as equals, because we were slaves. Black people were slaves. White women were property. It wasn't until 1920 that women got the right to be their own individual. You know, we still don't even do equal, I don't know, maybe equal pay. You know what I'm saying? There's still discrimination. We see that all the time. There's harassment. You know, I know a lot of individuals look at women, because I do it myself, and be like, damn, what'd she have to do to get to the top? What did she have to do to get to the top? Because I will tell you like this, is that there was no way in hell Kamala Harris could have been our president without doing something. And we all, there's a lot of shit out here. You know, when it came to Willie Brown or Montel Williams, there was a lot of shit. So you can't tell me that there was, I ain't even gonna go there, but it shouldn't really be looked at that. It should be more looked on their merit. It should be looked on their integrity. Because we all have pasts. I will say that. But this shit that's going on with immigration, it's some real ass shit. You know, just the past couple of days, they arrested, I think 8 in St. Louis Park. And now that probably the snow's done and over with until at least next week, you probably won't see much of ICE, but be on the lookout. And this is I will say this, is that with all the waste going on, I would rather our monies that is allocated to nonprofits, we honestly need to get, I'm not trying to say that we shouldn't take care of immigration, right? We should go about it in a way that everybody's accepted. It doesn't matter if you're here illegally or legally, right? Because you're still here, we got to deal with it. And there's a reason why you came over here. It doesn't matter if you came over here for the American dream, or if you came over here because your country is so fucked up, there's no other way to live but over here, right? Because it's so dangerous. So I understand that. So we have to figure out a way, a path to make sure that everybody is taken care of. That everybody, doesn't matter if you're here on a visa, it doesn't, and we have way too many of those. We have student visas, we have work visas, you know, we have all different types of things. And we need to honestly get rid of those. We need to be where everybody is some kind of process to make it where if you're only over here for work, if you're only over here for school, we have to clarify that. We have to make it where everybody is seen. We stop bunching everybody up as either they're black or, you know, they're Hispanic, or because it's not like that. We see what's going on in Ukraine, Russia, Gaza, Israel. And it's like, when are people going to stand up and be like, you know what's up? We cause a lot of this. We are a part of the problem. So why don't we American people be a part of the solution? And I'll tell you this, all this protesting and all that is only going to cause more trauma and more pain in your communities if you stood up and fought fire with fire. And when I'm talking about that is fighting fire with fire, you do the same shit that they're doing. You don't sit there and do something that we're continually doing years later. You know what I'm saying? They did a boycott of the bus that lasted over a year, almost a year, and it worked. So if we're not designed to give up these programs, I shouldn't say these programs, these corporations like Walmart or Target, and make it a habit, it won't ever get done. So with that being said, let me get into this Copel thing.
President Trump is moving forward with his plan to deport 1 million undocumented immigrants, and the arrests, the raids, the deportations are happening in every state. We're taking a look at what's going on in just one state, here in Minnesota. Carolina Ortiz is the Associate Executive Director of COPAL, which stands for the Comunidades Organizando Poder y la Acción Latina. It's an organization formed in 2018 that is on the ground helping the Latino community. Thank you, Carolina, and I hope I didn't mess up your organization's name.
That was wonderful, thank you.
Okay, you are on the ground actually helping these people who are the subject of these raids. Tell us what has happened in the past couple of weeks here in Minnesota and the raids that have happened.
Yeah, of course. So within the work that we've been doing in Copal, and we've been established just for a few years now, but we've been able to engage with over 42,000 Minnesotans across the state of Minnesota. And part of that has led us...
And these are undocumented?
Everybody.
Everybody, okay.
Yep. But part of that has allowed us to have a really good connection with community members, knowing how to engage with them, email, text, calls. And we've been hearing a lot of fear coming from community members. As we're seeing them in person, as we're calling in for resources, they are very vocal that it is a time of uncertainty and a lot of fear.
You have an estimate that there are 100,000 undocumented residents here in Minnesota. You have actually been getting phone calls from those who have family members or loved ones that have been arrested. Tell us about the call you got from a 16-year-old.
Yes, so we've been within Copal is a co-lead in a network called the Immigration Defense Network, and part of that is over 90 organizations, groups that have come together to really work in hand in regards to when we're hearing people calling us saying, hey, this is happening in my town, somebody got arrested. We did get somebody calling in and saying, hey, we heard that many people got arrested. We think that one of them was our family member. We need support. So within the network, we were able to work and figure out what are the details, what is actually going on, were people arrested, how do we help, and how do we move forward. So that's been a lot of the work within that network.
And this was a teenager who didn't know and whose other family members probably did not speak English, and she was the one who's kind of handling everything, right?
Yes, and part of that reminds me a lot of things that I've experienced growing up, right? You're the teenager in the family, the one that is able to speak English, the one that is able to ask the tough questions, and it is really hard hearing from people, especially when they're young, of trying to figure out what's going on. Am I going to see my family again? How do I handle this? How do I get legal support? So it's been rough.
All right. There have been at least 2 raids here in the past couple of weeks in Minnesota, one in St. Louis Park, one in Rochester. In the Rochester case, some people were released, apparently. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so what we know is that 5 were released with no criminal background.
So they had no criminal backgrounds, because the
background.
Trump administration has said if you get picked up in a raid and you're undocumented and you don't have a criminal background, we're still going to keep you. But that was not the case in the Rochester raid.
Correct. So they were released on bail, is what we know right now. But we've also been hearing, and I'm sure everybody has seen it on the news, right, that if you haven't done anything bad, if you are being good and doing everything that you should, you're not in trouble. That's not what we're seeing.
In other news, Minnesota residents are going to be happy to hear this. It just came out. There's a new website where...
Okay. What are the rights of somebody who is stopped and arrested by ICE? What can they do? Because I know you hand out cards to let people know what their rights are.
Yeah, so we've been handing out a lot of information. Part of it was for Valentine's Day. We delivered over 20,000 Know Your Rights cards for Valentine's. And we have been telling people you do have rights, regardless of your status. You have the right to not open the door. You have the right to remain silent. You have the right to ask for legal help. You have the right to not sign any documentation. So people do have rights, and it's important that they know that they do.
Okay, so they don't have to open the door.
No.
Okay. One of the things that I think a lot of people don't know is that those that are undocumented actually pay taxes. Explain how that works and how there's a new layer of fear being added in just recently with some of the moves by the Trump administration.
Yes, so the IRS implemented a system or program in '96 to allow people without documents to pay their taxes. It's called an ITN number, ITIN number. And that number is used similar to a social security number, except you cannot get any benefits, you cannot use it other than paying your taxes. And there's billions of dollars of money that immigrants have been able to pay. Right now, and what we're hearing in the news is that they want to get the data or information to use it as far as like addresses, gaining information, and using that.
So in other words, the Trump administration is hoping to get the information from the IRS on these undocumented taxpayers in order to find them, yes. which there's always been a line in the sand, and that's actually a broader issue that's going on with the IRS and some of the IRS data as well. What is, you mentioned the fear, are people who are legally here also afraid? Are they afraid to do things? Tell us about that.
I wish the answer was no, but unfortunately, yes. Many people are in mixed status families, meaning that somebody has a Social Security, somebody is a DACA recipient, somebody is undocumented, and because of that diversity in families, there is a constant fear of, even though somebody in their family might be okay and not in any fear of being deported, somebody in their family is.
Or somebody in their home.
Exactly.
Somebody in their home. What would you like people to know about your organization and to know about the community in general?
You know, growing up undocumented myself, I know that there is a lot of fear, a lot of anxiety that comes with everything that we're seeing in the news. What helped me was being in community, having a space where I could come and support, and I want them to know that COPAL is that space. And there's also many organizations out there, so if you're feeling stressed, if you're feeling like there's very limited that you can do, I encourage everybody to really reach out to one of the organizations like COPAL that is doing the work.
And we were talking earlier, and you mentioned it was something like the Underground Railroad, where there's a network all over the country. If something happens in Moorhead, you know the people in Moorhead. Tell us about how you got your road to status, if you can.
In my personal, so I, as I mentioned, I grew up undocumented, and then received DACA, and then now I'm able to have my green card. So that it's been a process for me. All right,
so you've got a green card, and are you confident that you will be able to keep that green card?
With everything that we're seeing right now, I don't know. I don't know, and it is terrifying.
No, I don't mean to lie.
I really don't know.
Okay, but you do have a green card.
I do.
How old were you when you came here?
I was 3 years old.
3 years old. And why did your family come here?
We came here because of the living situation that they were in. The economy that they were living in did not allow them to have a home, to have food on the table on a daily. I also was born with a medical condition, so it was really the last option for my parents. They actually migrated internally before they even took or even thought about the option of moving outside of Mexico. So it was a challenging time, but for them it was really the only option.
And what are some of the resources that COPAL provides that perhaps are not completely tied to undocumented status?
Yeah, so we do have different core areas like health and wellness, workers' rights, environmental justice. So we do have a worker center on Lake Street. People can either come, call us. We offer a variety of resources. And part of that is also engaging them with the activities that we're doing, such as our outdoor events or art making, so a way that brings in community.
Well, we'll put the information about COPAL if people want to look up and get more information about it on our website. But Carolina Ortiz, thank you so much for coming in. We really appreciate it. And that does it for this edition of Talking Points. Please.
Wow. But you know, the one part that wasn't discussed is who pays their budgets. As taxpayers. They're allotted money from state legislators. So there's lobbyists. And that's the one crazy part, which people don't want to talk about. I want to get into the Feeding Our Future, right? I know we've been discussing that. That to me has been something that Minneapolis needs to talk about, Minnesota needs to talk about. But I wanted to where Amy by Omar Fatih, Jamal Osman, and somebody from Ilhan Omar's camp honored her for her leadership.
Tonight, we've obtained compelling video evidence in the high-profile federal Feeding Our Future fraud trial. Prosecutors submitted a video last week showing former Feeding Our Future director Amy Bach celebrating a win in court in 2021. Well, now prosecutors are trying to prove Bach was the leader of that entire scam. Plus, as Jay Coles reports tonight, it also shows a Minneapolis city leader defending the program.
This video, obtained by 5 Eyewitness News, is a celebration of former Feeding Our Future executive director Amy Bach. Federal prosecutors say it's a piece of evidence that helps prove she was the leader of the $250 million scheme. It's a party thrown after an April 2021 ruling in favor of Feeding Our Future in a legal battle with the Minnesota Department of Education.
When MDE launched their attack on this program, we came together as a team.
Prosecutors say that ruling by a Ramsey County judge allowed the meal fraud to go on for another 6 months.
You have no legal authority to steal this money from the community. The money was immediately released. You all were paid as soon as we received it.
The plaque she received a couple months later says, "In recognition and appreciation for your outstanding leadership." Minneapolis City Council member Jamal Osman spoke at that same celebration. Osman said he talked with Heather Mueller, the education commissioner at the time.
I told her this money is actually from the federal. Your job is to distribute fairly to the communities that deserve.
He also questioned the agency's motives.
But I'm one of those people that push back and call it what it is, which is racist tactics.
Osman has not been charged in the Feeding Our Future case, and talking with MDE about the program is something he can do as a city council member. St. Thomas law professor Mark Osler says Osman's comments are something the public should hear.
Some are more politically risky than others, and this was definitely close to that line of great political risk.
Now, in 2024, Osman's wife had a nonprofit that the Minnesota Attorney General shut down in civil court, calling it a, quote, fraudulent shell company created around the start of the pandemic to perpetuate fraud. Osman and his wife have not been criminally charged. I reached out to Osman by phone, text, and email for comment, but I have yet to hear back. Reporting live.
And, that's the one crazy thing. An election's coming up, you probably won't hear back. But definitely they need to be. There's a lot of things he does need. Yeah, and it's not just Osman. It's Omar Fatih. They both need to be, even Ilhan Omar, Keith Ellison, because I know just the other day, and I'll play it tomorrow. I know Walter Hudson, Abshir, I don't know his last name. So I'm not going to murder it. He went up to a committee and put Keith Ellison's name out there. That's not new. Just because he came out, here's my thing of it is, I don't take that nigga for shit. I don't care if you want to call him a whistleblower or whatever you want to do, because when people were telling y'all weren't listening. You weren't listening. Let's keep it 100. You weren't listening. And just like how they tried to bring up 36th and Penn yesterday, Paul Novotny and Walter Hudson, about the incident where a young man was killed right down the street minutes after they left. I'd say about 20, 30 minutes after they left, and had his pockets ran through. Right. Oh yeah, they're starting to admit it. And they have to. They literally have to admit it. They have to admit it. There's too much. Here's the crazy thing of it. There's too much proof. There's too much evidence. There's videos. This is the one crazy part, right? They like to, Walter wanted to talk about that video where the guy was talking about Keith Ellison. Well, let's go back 2 years ago when there was a whole Fox 9, KSTP, KARE 11. They filmed this, what happened that day. There was Cortez Rice. There was Dane McBride. There was me. There was Ashley Radloff. See, we went in there to talk about how Keith Ellison was doing a press conference about what they're exactly talking about now. It's hurting our juveniles, right? So I went up there and said, Keith, when are you going to talk about all the affiliations, the connections inside your office to Feeding Our Future? Because it benefited him. The same thing with Walls. These people literally had, in their campaign teams, literally had people that were part of Feeding Our Future. And they chose to look the other way. The same thing that goes on with Bob Fletcher. So here's the thing of it is, you ask Bob Fletcher about Sharon Ross, who has pled guilty. Reverend Spence, Shiloh Temple, they have all done events with Twin Cities Refuge. You can't tell me they didn't know about Feeding Our Future. And then we go to these little, nobody wants to talk about Faribault. That was one of the biggest areas that there wasn't people that lived there, but there was a lot of money going there. The same way with Rochester. It's crazy because when you bring this shit up, niggas don't want to talk. You got to make them. That's the one crazy part, right? There's so much evidence out there. It doesn't matter if you clear it, clean it. It's out there. People probably took screenshots, whatever. Because that's how I count up Bob Fletcher and Shiloh Temple with Sharon Ross. and Mickey Frost and that Lisa Clemens, they all did events with her. This lady was getting millions of dollars. And to tell me y'all didn't know about it. The same thing with Georgia Ford's husband. We didn't put it out there. The news did. And yet they didn't want to do it because at the end of the day, I'm going to tell you why they didn't go at stories like that. Because it brought up them. It brought up their connections. That's why Sahan Journal stopped covering it. Because it was Jamal Osman was wrapped in it. Omar Fatih. And then you see the only one really reporting on it now is a Republican reporter, the American Experiment and Alpha News. Wait, what? And it's been talked about. All this is out here. Fairbolt, Rochester, Keith Ellison, Tim Walls. There's connections. If people looked at their donor sheets and then you looked at Feeding Our Future and their affiliations with it, you tell me. Because in my eyes, how my education worked, 2 + 2 = 4. This is the same thing. I made a post on Facebook about Mayo Clinic and all the money they get. And then, Georgia Ford's husband. I literally brought that up. The FBI investigated her husband. Her husband. So his gym, his boxing gym, was a site for Feeding Our Future for the kids. And that's came out. I don't know. Here's the thing of it is, and I'm only going to say this because what's came out, I don't believe that he was getting any of the money. It was they were using him. They were using him. So my thing of it is, I don't understand that. Like, it's all came out there with Georgia Ford's husband. And I don't understand why people don't look at that shit. I think it was KSTP or Fox 9. Yeah, I'll look for it. But that shit was wild. It was crazy. It came up. And then I understood why. When I reached out to Sahan Journal and Muhammad, and I asked him a couple of questions about Feeding Our Future, and I'm like, why aren't you covering this? Why aren't you covering about Jamal Osman? And because then that's when I found out the connections with Sabari, right? Because that's where one of the biggest daycares was on Lake Street in that Caramel Mall, but there was nobody there. They were getting money, and that's the one, because I'll bet you it was like this. There was so much foot traffic through there, is that they believed that people were in there. And then when the news went over there, Jay Coles, the guy you're seeing on the screen right now, and there was nobody in there. You've seen chairs, you've seen some little toys. What you didn't see is little kids. What you didn't see is teachers. And that's the one crazy part, because I will tell you like this. I got people coming to me and be like, man, they're going to take away Social Security. I'm going to lose my job. Oh, I feel bad for you. But when people were already saying this shit, you chose to look the other way and continue to get your paycheck. So you could go twerk, so you could go buy some I don't know, I'm trying to think of an alcohol, some tequila. You wanted to go get a BBL, your nails, your hair. And now we're sitting here fucked. Everybody wants to talk about Anthony Edwards and the fact that he didn't want to have a child with that woman and he ended up having one. I don't know that man's situation, but I know plenty of niggas in the hood that are just like that. So why do I give a fuck about Anthony Edwards? Because he knows how to shoot a basketball, when I know plenty niggas in my hood that do that. And maybe some of them want to get away from that, but don't know any better, because we got niggas that go up to the state capitol and go up there and lie. So they can go up to St. Michael, or they can go up to Maple Grove and feel all right that Minneapolis, we're getting screwed over by police. We're getting screwed over by our city council members. And do they care? Because they don't have to live in it. They get to go all the way back out to the suburbs, out to northern Minnesota, and they get to live their lives. Because you heard what they said, and I played it. I love Minneapolis, but I don't live there. I've worked there. That's what Walter Hudson's words were. He worked there. He played there. He never lived there. And when these people go to the bad areas, it's because people invite them. They don't go over there just to look at it. That's the one crazy part, right? Is that same day, that same picture that I took with Walter Hudson, right? And Paul Novotny and Jamal Johnson was out there, and Robert was out there. Reverend Pam came through. That was the Jamal Mitchell. They brought that up in the committee hearing yesterday. And I've said that, I've talked about it today a little bit. Because I will say it like this. We are talking points to people. When it comes to these politicians, we are talking points. Because I will tell you like this, what Emma Greenman said during that committee hearing. There is a public safety committee hearing here, and a Minneapolis member is actually in it for the first time in years. Years. But yet Minneapolis and St. Paul is always talked about. Always talked about. So then when niggas get tired, that's the one thing. They brought up 6 kids, right? 6. Then I bet you they were between the ages of 12 to 15 that had over 174 victims. That had over 174 crimes. We'll go that way. We had over 174 victims, right? Which means that there was 29 victims per child. Now, people want to tell me is I should be mad at the schools. I should be mad at the parents. See, no, I'm not. Because I will tell you right now that a lot of these kids, no, I talk to these parents. When they're handcuffed from doing the right thing for their child, because some of these motherfuckers need to be whooped. I'm going to be straight up honest. They need to be whooped. I'm not saying you need to be out here and abusing a child. I'm saying you have to put a child in their place. A child has to be a child. You have to let a parent. But if that parent is abusing that child, that's when the system should step in. It should step in. You know what? You've crossed the line there, sir, ma'am. So we got to reel you back a little bit. But then the crazy thing is y'all want to be involved in situations where people are trying to better their lives, but the legislation that's already there has made it tough. It's made it tough. So you're trying to fix an issue, but you're trying to fix the issue in your area and then make it harder on the constituents in another area. Because while you say that you've been in that area, no, because I will tell you like this, out of those 174 victims, how many of those lived in North Minneapolis? How many of those resided in North Minneapolis? Resided in North Minneapolis. Not many. I will say that. There ain't many. It may be a few, maybe 1 or 2, but it definitely ain't enough to make some changes for Minnesota and use them as a scapegoat. So I found this podcast yesterday, right? And it happens to be a lady that is from Rochester, Minnesota. It's a lady that I know, and I was shocked to see this. I didn't know that she did this. It's Sade Jordan. She is the owner of Cashmere Luxe in Rochester, Minnesota. And I think I love this. She talks about her experiences being, in the federals, being locked up and all that. And Miss Niana, I think that's how you say her name. She talks about her experience. But I want to get into the conversation that they had last night where they were talking about becoming an FBI informant and getting paid, because they do have budgets for that, but not only just on a federal level, but also at a city level, because our local police departments have budgets for these, right? That's the one crazy part what nobody ever wants to talk about. So when you look at Mayor Frey talking about his budgets, why doesn't nobody ever want to talk about the police confidential informants and how much they get paid to do that? Because how much of that money is being used in the wrong way and incarcerating individuals that don't need to be incarcerated.
The state's attorney, you give me some time off, I can tell you this one story. They nailed it nailed a nail in the coffin. I got it. He told me, he confessed. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you know, I know somebody that happened to as well. This guy that we grew up with, he killed a kid.
Are you looking to start your own business? Well, look no further than busy.com. Right now, we'll complete your LLC filing free.
Back to them.
He wanted the front and went up in the feds on some other case. And he came across somebody. And he was trying to front with them. I guess they was big homie, whatever.
Right.
He told the big homie his story, and the big homie cashed him in and got out.
Wow.
That's what I'm saying. Everybody keeps on saying, everybody keeps talking about, even we'll roll over to the situation with Meech. Where's the black and white? Why he didn't get a Rule 35. He didn't get a 5K one. Okay, he didn't get a Rule 35. He didn't get the 5K one. He got the 11C1C. And here's the thing about that. He did do the 20 years.
Yeah, but there was a time cut.
Right, he did go from 360 down to 292 months, I believe, 92 or 94, right? He did go down from the 30 to 20. Here's the thing about that. He got the time cut because of the sentencing guidelines. But what people's not realizing, when he was right at about his 10-year mark around 2015, 2016, 17, he was trying to get out. That was right around the time that Cuff was supposed to get sentenced. He's going through trial, all of that. What happened is, if they're not calculating it, Cuff could not get charged.
Right.
He could not get charged with the bodies.
Right.
He could not get charged with the drugs because Tammy was sleeping with a DEA agent. Why isn't nobody getting that?
That's because they don't know anything about law. They haven't lived that lifestyle. They just looking in. You know what I'm saying? They don't know the culture of that kind of what's going on. So, hey, that's on them. I don't even care no more.
Right. Beating a dead horse with that.
Right.
But let me tell you about one informant. They got a total of $9 million.
$9 million, honey.
As an informant for the federal government. He was an ex-Soviet officer, and they call him the Merchant of Death. He went all over.
A merchant of death.
So he was a guns dealer.
Right.
Okay. Up, you know, guns and drugs, whatever they did, big high people all over China, Thailand, whatever. For 15 years, he was an informant.
And he finally
unmasked himself. He went unidentified for a long time. And he said, I guess he got tired of,
tired of running. You can run, but you can't hide. You can run, but you can't hide. That's what's going on with Tammy.
And he had to unmask himself. I guess he was wearing masks and giving his, how they call it, debriefing.
Debriefing, yeah.
After, he's setting folks up and somebody challenged him. Said, I didn't, a defendant challenged him, and that's when he finally went to court.
Damn.
He had to go to court. They said, we can't hold you no more. But $9 million.
Damn.
That man lived a good life.
Right.
Good life.
$9 million.
Taxpayer dollars.
What you could do with that right now?
Okay. Right. Okay. $9 million.
Baby, you be everywhere. That's anywhere. Okay.
Yeah.
You're attending everything. That's everything.
His last name. His name is Carlos Sagatumi. Carlos Sagatumi.
Okay.
Merchant of Death.
Narcotics. He was in the State's Department Narcotics Rewards Program, collected $7.5 million one time for 2 rewards for his work he did as a drug enforcement administration. Another $1.6 million was earned through work on 150 investigations. Through some of the money covered expenses. He was paid $250,000 for the bout probe, which is a bout probe. All this stuff is in the federal, these were big bucks back in the day. These were big bucks. In fact, they made a movie about him because Nicolas Cage played him in that movie. It was true. The state's department has paid more than $62 million in rewards since Congress established the program in 1986 to reward individuals who provide information to help arrest, convict drug dealers. So this program was created in 1986.
Damn.
To arrest drug dealers.
Right.
You know, the war on drugs. And that's how that get the drug dealers. Through informants, because you know the police ain't doing their job. 9 times out of 10, police ain't doing their job. The informants doing it for them. The citizens, the people of the world is doing it for them. They not going out there risking their life to go buy some drugs 9 times out of 10. No, they're cops.
They're gonna see the thing about police and what people don't understand would mess with the feds. Ain't nobody beating them. They got to realize that when it's federal, it's the United States.
Right.
The whole United States of America versus you.
Yeah.
You think you're going to outsmart all of them minds?
Nope.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
No.
But when you're young or when you're just ignorant to the fact and you just being stupid to getting money, and like we said, there's so many other ways to get money. That's what you choose, right?
It's a lot of ways to get money now.
And so the reason with the informants, especially when they're just a regular civilian, they always got a motive behind it.
Right.
Jealousy.
Right. And
it's either like in Tammy Cowan's situation, it's jealousy of it always has to involve a woman.
Right.
Where I think that where her and Meech went wrong at is Meech pressed her to not have his name implicated in the investigation, in the paperwork, right? Also, he promised her he would be with her and they would live the world and live it up. When he got home, his mind changed. He thought since he got home, he could be with baby mama. He thought that, right?
Really?
He thought that he could be with baby mama and play in her face.
Oh, wow.
Not knowing 50 Cent had the rights to the BMF story. So when you sit back and you really look at the situation, we're going to touch on that real soon and break it all the way down. Because it really entails like your circle, who you trust, how many people that you really take care of and is into it like what you're into it for, right? Because if I'm mistaken, it was so many key players in the situation they were more on the music side versus on the hustling side.
Right.
But he was taking care of those people, but you were taking care of those people because you were using those people. So it's always a messy thing, yeah.
But you know what? To end this, back to that video you played with that young man talking about informants and it doesn't pay to sell drugs.
Right.
Now in today's world, I'm gonna say 2 things. It's not wise to sell drugs anymore because it's not in its purest form anymore. It's being stepped on,
so raggedy, yeah.
Synthetic, the heroin, cocaine, meth,
fentanyl in
added into all, even the pills, the party drugs. You're not getting pure stuff from back in the 80s and 90s no more.
They even spraying fentanyl on the weed. What is that?
So that's one reason you shouldn't be a drug dealer no more. You're dying from what you're selling, and you're gonna go to prison for
long time.
Right. You definitely will.
President Trump already said he wants
he wants penalties to drug dealers.
So y'all got to be wise and think about it now.
Right.
It's over with.
Yeah, definitely is.
So I found that conversation, and I started following. So hopefully I'll be able to catch one of them when they're live because they had some very good conversations. And I just love going through it. But the one that they had, and especially because I know a little bit about her background, I'm not saying I know everything, but the way that she displays it and talks about her realities, and it's shocking. You know what I'm saying? That other people are out here that have gone through these situations and need to be talked about, and because so people can grow. You know, it doesn't pay to be a drug dealer anymore. You need to tell your homies, your friends, whatever. It doesn't pay. Crime doesn't. This is the one thing that I want people to understand, right? We're in a society that represents state representatives, state senators. They made a profit off of fucking up Minneapolis so bad that you have a population of children, of kids that are suffering, that are paying for the price because they wanted to, the war on drugs, they wanted to eradicate, but yet there you had programs like, I shouldn't say programs, departments like the CIA or FBI that were bringing in guns, that were bringing in drugs, all while these state legislators and prosecutors were getting hard on us. And now you're seeing the repercussions and the consequences of that. They're not being tough on crime. They're being lenient in who's paying, because now they want to change all of that. They want to change all of it. It ain't just kids being kids anymore, because these kids are now doing adult crimes. So we're going to look at them like they're adults, and we're going to charge them accordingly. People got to look at that, right? Now, before I get up out of here, save this for last, because Elon Musk has made a tweet. That's what I'll call it, because he came out with a tweet. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna play Willie D's. But because he talks about it too. So listen to this, and you hear that Elon Musk is asking, or potentially could be asking, Donald Trump to pardon Derek Chauvin.
Willie D Live.
What's up, family? Elon Musk has amplified another racist plea for Donald Trump, your president, to pardon former Minneapolis police officer, uncivilized mutt number one, Derek Chauvin, in the 2020 murder of George Floyd. Question: do you think Elon will be successful in persuading Donald Trump to grant old buddy a pardon? Give me a thumbs up if you think yeah. Thumbs down if you say, nah, man, they ain't gonna do it. They racist, but they ain't that racist. Shapiro on Tuesday suggested that if we are issuing pardons, there is one person that President Donald Trump should pardon from federal charges forthwith: the inciting event from BLM riots that caused $2 billion in property damage in the United States and set America's race relations on their worst footing in my lifetime was, in fact, the railroading of Derek Chauvin and the death of George Floyd, he claimed. He added that Chauvin, who's currently serving a federal sentence of 21 years and 22 and a half years on state charges, after pleading guilty to depriving Floyd of his civil rights and being convicted by a jury of murder and manslaughter in 2021, is actually innocent. He said, make no mistake, the Derek Chauvin conviction represents the defining achievement of the woke movement in American politics. The country cannot turn the page on that dark, divisive, and racist era without righting this terrible wrong. He wanted to say, the country cannot turn the page on that dark, divisive, and racist era without righting this terrible wrong with another dark, divisive, and racist era. The country cannot turn the page on that dark, divisive, and racist era without righting this terrible wrong. He wanted to say, the country cannot turn the page on that dark, divisive, and racist era without righting this terrible wrong with another dark, divisive, and racist era. Derek Chauvin's actions are well documented on video. The world saw it. You can't unsee it. Anybody riding for him. Anybody that wants to see him freed are a devil's advocate. George Floyd died on May 25th, 2020. After Derek Chauvin forced his knee into the man's neck for an entire 9 minutes and 29 seconds, all while George Floyd was face down, begging for help, moaning for his mother, and telling officers he could not breathe. Derek Chauvin had plenty of opportunities to remove his knee from George Floyd's neck. If he didn't know he was killing him, when he stopped moving, when his body stopped resisting the attack, he continued to have his knee on his neck. Minutes later, when he got good and ready to get off of his neck, he raised up among his peers, his colleagues, the other officers that were on the scene who assisted in the murder. This was absolute murder, and if it had happened to a police officer, there would not have been the so-called $2 billion in property damage. There would not have been any riots. There would not have been a need for a BLM type of organization, because the perpetrator would have been admonished immediately. The perpetrator would have been arrested, charged, convicted, and sentenced with no resistance. Ben Shapiro not only operates like the devil, he looks like the devil. He is a soulless person. And for Elon Musk to entertain the devil's request, what does that make him? I don't see how y'all ride around in those Tesla trucks. I get it. Some of you didn't know he was the way he is until much later. I get it. But now that you know, what's up with that trade? What that trade looking like? Yeah. Now here's the thing, fam. For all you people out there that's probably getting excited that Derek's coming home. Well, Derek ain't coming home no time soon, because even if Trump pardoned him, that would only cover the federal charges against him, the federal sentence against him, which is 21 years. That was made to run concurrent to his 22 and a half years in state. So he has to serve that before he can get out. So he can get a full pardon from Trump on a federal level, but he still has to finish that 22 and a half year state sentence. Now, for all of you hopefuls out there who thinks that your hero is on his way out of the door, not so fast. Even if Trump expunges his sentence on a federal level, right, he still has to complete that state sentence of 22 and a half years, which means he ain't going nowhere soon. He got to do at least 15 years. Right. So he better get real comfortable. And he's not guaranteed to finish those 15 years, because just in November 2023, he was attacked, stuck 22 times. Yeah, that boy tried to take that boy out, send him to the upper room. Upper room. One of my favorite sayings is, if at first you don't succeed, that upper room. Try and try.
That upper room, that upper room, that upper room, that upper room, right? And I will say this, because I don't want, it has nothing to do, in my eyes, with, George Floyd, if he killed him or not. I know what Derek Chauvin did to Zoe Code. I know he did to John Pope, Jennifer Day. And other individuals need to too, because just there's so many issues with the George Floyd case. You have to look at the bigger picture. You have to look at, don't make this political. Make this about the people, right? So with that being said, man, damn, it was a crazy ass episode today. We talked about a lot. But we tackled the real issues, the ones that they don't want us talking about, the ones that make you think. Now it's your turn. Jump in the conversation. DM me, hit the line. I want to hear from you. And if you vibed with today's episode, hit that like button, subscribe, and share this with somebody who needs to hear it. Because this message needs to be shared, and it needs to be shared worldwide. It needs to be shared all around our great country and our great nation, right? Because we have to stop individuals like Elon Musk and Ben Shapiro, because then we get individuals like Donald Trump. We get individuals like Marco Rubio, Peter Hegseth, that not everybody agrees with their decisions because it affects our community. Maybe it makes that community better, but it makes it harder on ours, man. And I'm going to keep on saying that, right? I'm going to keep on saying that about, feeding our future. And I am going to get deeper into it. So with that being said, man, I want y'all to win or fail, freedom or jail, heaven or hell, wish me well. And I will see y'all next time. And here you are with Still Got That Fire, Durban Conservative. Still got that. Silence, a shadow in the breeze. Stand on my own, no favors, no pleas. My name's my strength, every ounce I own. Step out of line and you'll find I'm stoned. Still got that fire. This isn't a game, my words cut deep. Power speaks for itself. This isn't a game, my words cut deep. Crave trouble, or you'll get what you seek. This isn't a game, my words cut deep. Power speaks for itself. Truth stands alone. I don't need a crowd.